And by the time I was finished, I was on the president's list. Oh, God. God and God alone. There was nothing I could do. It was God and God alone. But I had other opportunities as college went by, and our church, Benning Hills Baptist Church, was looking for a youth director. And they called me as a part-time youth director. And after I finished school, that position opened up to a full-time position of Minister of Education and Youth. And here I was, scared to death of education, a minister of education. It don't figure. But it was God and God alone. And I just love serving. I've never not liked serving. Is that good English down there? Was it good? Forget about the good English. But anyway, I just love to serve God. If there's an opportunity and it fits my gifts, I'm there. I just love God and what He's done. Well, as time goes on, it is now 1988. Linda and I were home on vacation, and I get a phone call while we're here in Portville, and it was from the Secretary of Youth for Christ, and she said, "Ken, there's a place in Wellsville that's looking for a director. Would you be interested?" Well, things were going quite well in Georgia. Things were going very well in Georgia. I wasn't that interested, but I asked her to send some information, and then I talked with Ralph Eastlack, and we talked for a little while. Ralph Eastlack, the previous director of Youth for Christ. Ralph, are you here? But anyway, he told me that Gills Hills was in serious trouble, and that if I didn't hear from him by November of '88, that the ministry probably would have folded. And I didn't hear from him. Actually, I never gave it any more thought. In April of 1989, I received a phone call from Ralph. The miracle behind that phone call is I was at work, and I got terribly sick. They wanted to call the ambulance. It was so bad. And I said, no, I'll be all right. Around 3 o'clock, I went home. As soon as I walked in the door, the phone rang, and it was Ralph. He said, Ken, this is Ralph Eastlack. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about Gills Hills. In May of '89, I came for an interview. In June of '89, we packed up bag and baggage from Georgia and moved to good old Wellsville, New York. Love that ministry. Love it. Love working with the kids, the 7-year-olds all the way up through senior high. It's just a ministry that is so awesome. And it was God that brought us here. We sold our house, or we got it, was it 6 days, 9 days? It wasn't on the market long, and sold right away. My daughter Angie and I came up here first, and then Linda and Eric followed. We had some rough times at first, getting used to the culture. We were Southerners, and we talked like it, and acted like it, and so that was an adjustment, especially for my kids in the school. So here we are. We're in Wellsville, New York, and I'll never forget, and this is all I'll say about Gills Hills. I'll never forget, Barb Stormer was the secretary, and I'd been here about 3 or 4 months. And she said, well, Ken, you need to write a letter. Write a letter to who? Well, if you don't send out a support letter, people will forget about Gills Hills. And I said, what? I had no clue that we were supposed to generate income to get paid. Never talked to me about that. It's 22 years later, and we're doing okay. We're doing okay. But the computer world, I'll never get used to it. But back in 1994, Dick Helms, resident here in Wellsville, he wanted to donate a computer. And I said, fine, that'd be great. never had one, never used one, and he brought it up, and there was, back then it was the big old monitors and, all of this stuff, and we were carrying it in, and he said, I've got to sit down and rest. And I said, okay, what are you, a wimp? But then we talked, and he said when he was a kid, he had polio, and that he had been diagnosed as having post-polio syndrome. Well, I didn't say this to him, but when I was 18 months old, I had polio. And I had been not feeling as strong at that time as before. I wasn't hiking the hills with ease and working with the kids with ease like I had been doing, but I attributed that, and that was a while back now. But just getting older, and that's okay. I'll never forget my dad saying that when I had polio, my body was so limp that if he didn't hold tight to his body, that my little body would just I like saying that at least once, that my little body would just slip right through the cracks. And but God, way back then, saw fit to take that disease away from me. And anyway, I wasn't feeling well, and I went to the doctor. There was a Dr. Scott here in Wellsville at the time, and he checked me out a little bit, and he said, well, I think you need to see a neurologist. And so I did, and I went to Olean to a neurologist, and right away he had suspected that I had a certain disease, and after the visit, he explained it to me somewhat, and he says, I think we're looking at Lou Gehrig's disease, but don't bank on that. There's a lot of tests we can run and do and blood work and all this stuff, and so don't bank on that. But I think that's what we're looking at. And Linda was working at the craft shop there with her mom in Weston's at the time, and I stopped by there because it didn't sink in. Lou Gehrig's disease did not sink in. I didn't know what it was. And he didn't explain exactly what the disease was. When I told Linda, her jaw dropped, so it must be something bad. And when I told my sister-in-law that's a nurse, she says, oh, Ken, we'll do everything we can. Boy, this must be bad. Well, anyway, I continued to go to him, and we did the EMGs and the CAT scans and the MRIs and the spinal taps, and I even went to the post-polio clinic in Rochester, and they told me, yes, you did have polio. I knew that. But anyway, and the doctor said, you know what, I can't find anything, and I'm not going to necessarily diagnose you with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. What I want you to do is go to the ALS clinic in Rochester and see Dr. Goldblatt. He's the chief ALS physician there. He's done nothing but ALS patients for over 20 years at that time, and I want you to go see him. And so I went, and it was 6 months later, he did all the tests, he reviewed the tests that had been taken, and then more spinal tap, MRI, EMG. I don't know if you've ever had an EMG, but it ain't fun. And all those tests, and I'll never forget, I was sitting on the table there, and he said, well, my diagnosis is that you do have ALS, and we'll do everything we can to make you comfortable. You've got 2 to 5 years to live, and whatever you need, we'll make sure that you have. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is a disease that for some reason causes the nerves to die. And when the nerves begin to die, other nerves try to reach out and help with the muscles. and it calls twitching or fasciculations. And I had all that, the twitching and the fasciculations, and I was beginning to lose my voice, and I just got weaker and weaker. I had the elevator put in up at Gills Hills, the wheelchair, the walker, the wrist brace, the neck brace, handicapped silverware, and the list goes on. But we never, ever really lost hope. We never did. Only once I remember sitting at my desk and looking at a picture of my family and going, like before you cry, and thinking, oh, how are they going to be when they're, 20 and 30 and 40 and grandchildren? But that was the only time I ever really felt like maybe I had lost hope. In Isaiah 40, verse 31, that's like a life verse for me. It says, "They that wait upon the Lord," and I can stop right there. They that wait upon the Lord. And we were waiting. Did we have support? We sure did. We had my church support. We had our close friends that were here in Wellsville. We had a lot of support. Our family, my brother Tom, he's here tonight. He called me every day. Every day. And he's really into football. Now, hey, anybody watch the Bills today? What's up with that? Huh? I took a nap. I saw the end of it. I saw the score. But boy, that was something. But Tom is a football nut. And one time when I don't know if I was down or what the case may be, but he looked at me and he pointed his finger, which he does, and he said, "Don't you go down by a shoestring tackle." Now that's a football term. Sometimes these running backs, they can go through the line and they can get knocked all over the place, and they don't go down, but somebody reaches out and touches their toe and they fall. And he said, "Don't you go down by a shoestring tackle. Stay with it. Hang in there." And Linda, oh my goodness. We had healing tapes that we played. Every healing scripture in the Bible. We played. When I went to sleep at night, she turned that on. We made a little bedroom downstairs in the small living room, and I had a hospital bed there, and I don't know if she got 2 hours sleep in 3 years, but she was right there watching over me, and she had 3x5 cards posted around with the healing scriptures. You couldn't go anywhere in our house without reading a healing scripture. And we played Christian music around the clock, and we wanted God to be there. And he certainly was. My son, he was in college at the time, and he sent me a poem. And many of you have probably heard this, but I want to read it for you. It's called "Don't Quit." And it says, "When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt, and you can never tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things go wrong that you must not quit." And we didn't quit. Was I sick? Yes, I was sick. Was I weak? Yes, I was weak. I remember those that would try to shake my hands at church on Sunday morning, and I had nothing to shake back with. I had lost all the muscles in my hand. I was sick. Someone offered to bring me to New York City to see a faith healer, and it was just no. If God is going to do it, He is going to do it. And it would be God and God alone. someone else asked me, well, why aren't you acting like you're dying? Don't you want God